Welcome again to another episode of the Washington XXN podcast. This video that we're going to watch it needs an introduction. This is the French ambassador to Africa. Listen to listen to his mindset of how the French thinks and how they still view Africa. Listen to it and then we discuss it.
Let's go straight to the French ambassador, whose time is limited with us. French ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. We would like to know, what is the French embassy's response to this resolute and clear call by the EFF, as well as some citizens of these former French colonies, saying that they want the French out of these African countries?
Well, thank you very much and welcome to the French embassy. The EFF came to us legally and peacefully as a demonstration, so it was normal to engage a dialogue with them. So we took over their message and their statements. But the problem is, they are blaming France for all the problems in Africa. We are responsible for everything. I mean, France or the West or someone else. There is always someone to blame, for all the challenges of Africa. So today is France. And we don't see scapegoating as a proper policy. I think it's not fair to scapegoat or to blame France. So what we answer is that France today is a partner of Africa, is a friend of the African nations. We stand for an independent Africa, a sovereign Africa, and we want to strengthen our bonds with Africa.
Does France not take any accountability for the state of these countries in Africa?
Well, as a partner, we share a long history. History with difficult hours and beautiful hours. There are lots of human links between Africa and France. And even President Thabo Mbeki once said that France is an African country.
Hear what the man just said. Did you hear what the ambassador just said? He said France is considered Africa. That's the mentality they have. And before that, he said that France is in partnership with the African countries. Whenever have you ever heard the French say they are partners in Africa? And if you're a partner in Africa, why is it these countries are still at war? And why is it these countries never get developed infrastructure-wise? Why never do projects together? Or instead of giving aid, and that's what they can only use a budget, why never work with them and create manufacturing companies in these countries to process the diamond, the cobalt, the uranium, all of these things? Why was that never done if we are doing partnership? Since the Chinese comes in and doing it now, all of a sudden is an issue. And this is what the French does. And not only the French, this is what the West does, and you on the East in general. This is what they do when they come to the continent, right? I'm going to put it in a form of a business. You have Africa is a business. The continent is a resources. That's the capital, right? So you have two parties in most of these countries. So the French will comes in, or the West, it comes in. You have party A and party B. They are living together, cohabitating. But what? You come in now and you tell A, hey, B said this and B do this. Then you go to the B and say, hey B, A did this and A did that. So then now you put A and B together, they start a conflict. War starts, break out. You come in now as a C, as a savior, and come in the middle and say, oh, A and B, listen, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then C gonna choose a side. C gonna choose either A or B. They're gonna choose which one they can manipulate the most. So if it's B, they're gonna say, okay, C and B gonna work together to hell with A. So because now C and B is more stronger than two is stronger than one, they overthrow A, and then now B comes in as the winner, reap all benefits. But because of the partnership, the manipulation that's going on with C and B have to relinquish certain rights to C to keep the backing. If you want just to come to keep backing you, I need D, E, F, and G. And then B now have no choice but to give it up. So that's what caused conflict in the African continent for all these decades. Is the Western and people comes in and they cause they destabilize the economy, they escalate conflict between A and B and cause war-torn, especially wars and conflicts and hatred between these nations for years. Some of these African leaders are now realizing what the French are doing. That's why the French is being put out right now all over Africa, from Mali to Burkina Faso to the Congo to Somalia. All these countries are telling them leave because you're here to help us, but we're still having more conflict and we're still having more wars, and we're getting worse instead of getting better. So take your shit and bounce. And this is what Macron, this interview was pre-Macron going to the continent. So now after this, Macron flying to the continent now, trying to re-establish and these relationships, but it's not going to work, because if we are partners, why are you now saying the Chinese and the Russian is not good for you because they are doing infrastructure work for you? But you never did it, but now you're going and you're crying. Anyway, before I go any further, I will keep on. Let's finish the video.
Meaning that we have these long-lasting ties and history with the continent. So of course we are ready to look at the history together. We are ready to take account the past. We have to live with it. But today there is, I think, an ongoing, very vibrant relation and cooperation between France and the African nations. And what we do on a daily basis is to stand by the African people and to stand by the African nations.
Mm-hmm. The French officials took some time to leave these embassies headquarters to get to the EFF stage. What were some of your reservations?
No, we were waiting for the demonstration, to continue, but at some point they wanted us to come on stage and to sign a document, etc. Obviously that was not possible because, this is not our statement. Mm-hmm. And so, but we accept always the dialogue with democratic partners, and we are ready to engage in any kind of discussion as long as it's peaceful and legal, of course.
Do you believe that independence could be achieved if these French systems are still so pervasive? Why are they still so pervasive in these countries?
Well, I think these countries, all around Africa, they are independent. What they need to build now is stronger democracies. And we are at their side. It's not France that prevents these African partners from being more, independent. That's not our view of the situation at all. And what we can do is to support democratic actors on the ground, the civil society, women empowerment, to face our common challenges. That's really our policy today vis-à-vis Africa.
Some of the demands by the EFF, as well as some of the citizens of these countries that have joined this picket, have been calling for the full independence of these countries to be granted, the removal of all of your military bases in some of these countries. What is your response to some of these demands?
Well, again, we are talking about independent countries. And I think it's not, right to blame France for the situation and all the challenges. And when it comes to the military presence, there are indeed military soldiers in Africa, but always when the African governments are requesting these French soldiers to be on the ground. So it's really a partnership, it's mutual. It's when we need together, for example, to face the terrorist threats or terrorist groups, then we fight together. But we are never imposing or forcing a country or a people to accept the French military presence. We are working under the aegis of the United Nations with our international partners, and that's always like it today, and we are transparent and reliable partners.
What about the payment of reparations to your former colonies? What is your response to that?
Well, my response, and it was the response of the president in October last year in Montpellier, when we gather a lot of people coming from young African civil societies, is that we should look at the history together.
So guys, I see here, let me tell you, these people still saying these countries are not democratic. And he's basically saying they are still savages, because they're the ones that are fighting, and they're the ones who are requesting the French troops to come and help them. But that's the goal, that's the end goal for the French and for the Americans and for the English. I'm not just calling out the French, I'm calling about the entire colonized system is still in place. Because once you destabilize a country and you cause conflict, who you think, of course they're going to call for help, because And they always choose the side that's the weakest to fight against the one that's the strongest. Because if they put the strongest one in, then they can, as what's happening now currently, because this was like a while ago, this interview. So now these countries are getting wiser, they're getting more smart, because there's constant demonstration all over East Africa, I think, yeah. With the telling the French, yo, you gotta go, dog, because you are not. You see, how is it the French have satellites that can find a tick on a cow's ass, but you can't find these terrorist groups that's coming into these countries, kidnapping women and kids and disappearing with them? How is it possible I can go to the airport with a tic-tac in my pocket, but you can't find a group of men, a group of people, over 100 odd people, you can't find them in a place where you have satellites? It makes no sense. And the more you're in the country, the more bases you have there, the more social they have, the more problems the country has. Then why are you there in the first place if nothing is changing? I know you're gonna say, oh, they call you in because the countries are not civilized. They need. He's basically saying they need to act more civilized, and they are independent countries, but they're not civilized. That's what he's basically saying. But you are the ones who caused the destabilization, the conflicts, and then they come in as some savior because they did. Look what they did to Iraq when not the French, the Americans, when they accused Iraq of having mass destruction with Saddam Hussein, knowing well known fact, but they knew this wasn't the case, and they knew they was responsible for 9/11, but yet they still went to war because of what? They wanted oil. Now in Africa, especially in the Congo, they want cobalt, they want uranium, and they want gold. You name it, they want it. And the only place it is in the Congo, especially the cobalt. That's the only place on earth that can find that substances because of advancement in technological advancement. They need more and more cobalt, and so you're gonna make sure there's always conflict in the Congo, because if there's always conflict in the Congo, then they don't have time to be watching their resources. If the Congo could just come together and stop this fighting, you'll be surprised to see how these countries would bow down to, especially the Congo, because that's what's happening right now. These are uprising right now with Africa, when Zimbabwe, Uganda, Nigeria, South Africa, all these big emerging economies they are pushing back vastly now against the West and the East. That's what's causing the country now to be more, these presidents to be more outspoken and more straightforward. They're not hiding and covering anymore like scared dogs with their tails between the legs. They are now upfront and barking no, they're barking as how they should, like a real dog. They're not have the tail and whimpering to the West, and that's what I like, because the continent has everything they need, so they have to come to you. Say once or two, they have to come because they don't have what we have on the continent, so they have no choice but to come. But look what's going on right now in Africa presently. The Germans, Americans, the English, the Spaniards, in Italy, all these countries are all over Europe right now, not Europe, all over Africa right now, trying to sign deals and become partners. But if it wasn't for the Chinese and the Russians actually doing partnership and building these ginormous cities and infrastructure, look at all these beautiful 100-story, 50-story buildings that is now finished, constructed and in operation in Africa. Most electrical grids, the railway. The Chinese just did the railway in Kenya, where they're connecting the whole horn of Africa. That whole area is getting connected. Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan. All these countries are becoming one through train tracks and electrical grids, as I said earlier. They are building what I think Tanzania is becoming gonna be powered by nuclear power. Rwanda just almost finished their dam that they're building to power the country. A project that's going on for the past 30 years. You have they're building companies to process oil, they are building processing plants for uranium, for ore, for metal, gold ore, aluminum, bauxite. All these things are being put in place. Why? Because the Chinese and the Russians are doing this. That's what's scaring the West right now. That's why they are so all over Africa trying to sanction certain countries and say, oh, you cannot do this with the Chinese, you can't do that with the Russians. We're going to sanction you. That's fear. The Chinese use partnership, peace, and cohabitation over war and intimidation. That's just where we're at. So, anyway, thanks for watching. I don't know already. It's a Washington SXM podcast. I don't know. Tell a friend. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace. One love. Boom.